I was at 9,000 meters when I realized I was going to die. Not because of the Soviet machine gun that had just shattered my spine. Not because of the Yak-1 bearing down on me. But because, in 48 hours, I would have to look Adolf Hitler in the eye and say no. And no one said no to Hitler and survived. My name is Günther Rall, third highest scoring fighter ace of all time. 275 confirmed aerial victories. But this isn't a story about war. It's about the $500,000 wager a destitute officer made, betting I would never have the courage to defy the most dangerous man on the planet. He lost, and I should have died. Crimea, Eastern Front, April 12, 1944, the stench of burning oil permeated my cracked cockpit as I plunged at 700 kilometers per hour toward the ground. 3 Soviet Yak-1 south on my tail, ammunition dwindling, fuel critically low, but I had already downed 2 of them that morning. My fingers danced across the controls as if the Messerschmitt Bf 109 were an extension of my body. A 12-second burst. The third Yak erupted in orange flames. I landed back at base at 2:47 p.m., 23 years old. 223 confirmed victories. The Luftwaffe called me **Unsterblich**, the immortal. I was young, arrogant, and utterly oblivious to what lay ahead. In the command tent, I found Oberst Friedrich Meyer, a Wehrmacht intelligence officer I had never seen before. Gray face, sunken eyes. His hands trembled slightly as he lit a cigarette. "Rall," he said, his voice hoarse. "You've been summoned to the Berghof." My gut clenched. The Berghof, Hitler's eagle's nest in the Bavarian Alps. When? The day after tomorrow, April 14th. The Führer wishes to personally meet the Luftwaffe's greatest aces. It seemed an honor. Little did I know it was a trap. Meyer stepped forward, the reek of cheap vodka on his breath. "May I ask you a question, Rall?" "Of course. Do you believe in everything we do, truly?" A palpable silence enveloped the tent. That was a dangerous question. The kind of question that put men in front of firing squads. "I believe in protecting my men," I replied, weighing each word. "I believe in flying well. I believe in coming home." Meyer gave a bitter laugh. "Politically astute, clever." He lowered his voice. "But what if Hitler asks you to something that you know is wrong? Something that will kill innocent men?" My heart pounded. "Why are you asking me that?" He leaned in. "Because I've already lost everything, Rall. My family was killed in Dresden. My savings turned to dust with inflation. But an SS general, a rotten man named Kessler, offered me 500,000 Reichsmarks. 500,000. An impossible fortune in 1944. To do what? To bet you wouldn't have the guts." The words hung in the air like gasoline before an explosion. Guts to do what? Meyer flicked his cigarette to the ground. "Kessler heard rumors. They say Hitler will order the aces to bomb a civilian hospital in Warsaw, a hospital full of Polish women and children. He wants to test who is loyal beyond reason." My blood ran cold. "And Kessler bet that you'll obey, like everyone obeys." He bet 500,000, all the money he stole from Jewish families, that no pilot, not even the legendary Günther Rall, would have the courage to say no to Hitler. I couldn't breathe. "And you took the other side of the bet?" Meyer nodded slowly. "I bet you defy him. I bet everything I have left, including my life, on you. You're insane." "Perhaps." His eyes gleamed. "But I've seen how you fly, Rall. I've read your reports. You never shoot parachutists. You never bomb civilians. You have something Hitler hasn't managed to destroy yet." "What? A conscience?" The word echoed like a gunshot. I should have reported Meyer immediately. Should have turned him over to the Gestapo. But I didn't, because deep down I knew he was right. And in 48 hours I would be face to face with the devil. Berghof, Bavarian Alps, April 14, 1944, 9:30 a.m. The black Mercedes-Benz climbed the mountain road like a snake scaling a tree. I was in the back seat, uniform impeccable, cold sweat trickling down the back of my neck. Beside me, Hauptmann Klaus Becker, an ace with 89 victories and dead eyes. He hadn't uttered a word since we left Munich. Outside, snow-covered fir trees, perfect blue sky. It looked like a postcard, but I could smell it. Fear, my own. Meyer hadn't shown up to say goodbye. Maybe he was already dead. Maybe the Gestapo had caught him in the last 48 hours. Perhaps I was next. 500,000 Reichsmarks. That sum echoed in my head. One man had bet everything that I wouldn't have the courage. Another had bet everything that I would. And I didn't even know yet if the damn order would come. The gates of Berghof opened. SS guards everywhere, MP-40 submachine guns, barking German shepherds. A palace carved into the mountain, enormous windows reflecting the sun like empty eyes. We entered. The main hall stole my breath, a 10-meter ceiling, Persian carpets, a panoramic window displaying the entire Alps, as if Hitler were a god observing the world at his feet. And then I saw him, Adolf Hitler, smaller than I had imagined, ridiculous mustache, brown uniform, but the eyes were those of a madman. He greeted Becker first, a firm handshake, a political smile. Then he turned to me. Günther Rall. The voice was strangely soft. The immortal. 223 victories. Impressive. My hand met his. Cold. Dry. Like shaking hands with a corpse. It's an honor, mein Führer. The words came out automatically. Rehearsed. Empty. Hitler smiled. Honor? No, my young man. The honor is mine. You are Germany's sword. The tip of the spear that will break the Bolshevik spine. He turned, walked to the colossal window. Do you know why I summoned you here? Silence. Becker and I exchanged a quick glance. Because, Hitler continued, hands clasped behind his back, the war is entering its final phase. And we need men who obey without question. Men who will do the impossible. The unthinkable. My heart thundered. Here it comes. Hitler turned, his eyes fixed on me. Hauptmann Rall, do you have family? The question caught me off guard. Yes, mein Führer, my mother. 2 brothers, and do you love them? With all my life, he nodded slowly. Love, loyalty, these are the foundations of an empire. Pause. But what if I asked you to choose between your family and Germany? The air left the room. My voice faltered. I would choose Germany, mein Führer, a lie, and Hitler knew it. He stepped forward. So close I could see the veins bursting in his eyes. Liar, the word cut like a razor. Everyone lies when asked that question, he continued, his voice rising. But I don't blame you. I understand divided loyalty. I myself felt it once. He returned to the window. For let me be unequivocal on this. Tomorrow you two will receive orders. Orders that will test the very limits of your loyalty. Orders that historians will one day pass judgment upon. My stomach churned. Becker remained as still as a statue. Hitler gazed at the mountains. There is a hospital in Warsaw. The Red Cross Children's Hospital. Our intelligence has confirmed that Polish partisans are utilizing the basement as an arms cache, explosives, ammunition, radio, communication equipment. No. Tomorrow at dawn, Hitler said calmly, you two will lead a squadron of Stukas and reduce that hospital to rubble. The world stopped. Becker swallowed hard. I couldn't move. With all due respect, mein Führer, my voice emerged raspy. Bombing a Red Cross hospital contravenes the Geneva Convention. Hitler's eyes slowly turned to me. Slow, predatory. Geneva Convention. He echoed the words as if mocking them. And do the Soviets respect Geneva when they rape our women in Königsberg? Did the Americans respect Geneva when they incinerated Hamburg? No, sir, but there are nitrogen monoxide butts. The roar exploded. Hitler lunged forward, his face mere inches from mine. Do you believe you can question orders? Do you believe your conscience matters in this war? Saliva spattered my face. I should have lowered my gaze. I should have assented. I should have saved my life. But the image seared itself into my mind. Polish children, nurses, infants in cribs. And Mayer's voice echoed, "You possess something Hitler has not yet managed to destroy. Conscience." I opened my mouth, and the words that followed changed everything. "Then have me shot now, mein Führer, for I will not comply." The silence that followed was deafening. Becker blanched. Hitler stared at me. 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. And then ... he smiled. A small smile. Icy. Absolutely terrifying. Interesting. Berghof, April 14th, 1944, 10:05 a.m. Hitler took a step back. 2 steps. 3. His hands returned behind his back. The smile remained, that knowing smirk of one who holds all the trump cards. "You will not comply," he repeated, his voice soft again, perilously soft. "Hauptmann Rall, do you comprehend what you have just uttered?" My heart pounded so fiercely I was certain everyone in the room could hear it. "I comprehend perfectly, mein Führer. To defy a direct order from me is treason. Treason is punishable by death. Your death. And the death of everyone you hold dear." The words hung in the air like poison gas. I thought of my mother and her smile, and the letters she sent me every week, always concluding with, "Come home, my son, just come home." "I understand," I repeated, my voice firm now, "but I cannot kill children. I cannot. I will not." Hitler circled me, slowly, like a predator stalking wounded prey. "Do you know what I find fascinating, Rall? You killed 223 men, 223 fathers, sons, brothers. You blasted them from the sky. You watched them burn alive inside their planes. But now ... now you have a conscience?" Each word was a dagger thrust. "They were combatants," I replied. "Soldiers like me." "That's different. Different." Hitler stopped in front of me. "Let me tell you a story, Hauptmann. In 1923, I was in a Munich beer hall plotting a revolution. One of my men, a good man loyal, asked me, 'Adolf, if this goes wrong, innocent people will die. Can you live with that?' He paused. Do you know what I replied? I said nothing. I said, 'There are no innocents, only obstacles between us and greatness.' He turned back to the window. The Alps glittered outside, indifferent to the horror within that room. 'But,' Hitler continued, 'I am reasonable. More reasonable than my enemies portray me.' He turned back. 'So I will give you a choice, Rall, a choice no other man would be given.' My blood ran cold. Option 1. You lead the bombing tomorrow. You destroy the hospital. You save your career, your family, your life. And you carry that burden for the rest of your days." He raised a second finger. Option 2. You refuse. I arrest you for treason. I send you to Dachau, and your mother. Your brothers ... Well, accidents happen in wartime. The room spun. Becker remained petrified beside me, staring at the floor. Option 3, Hitler said, and my stomach plummeted. There was a third option. You accept a different mission, more dangerous, almost suicidal. If you survive, you are forgiven. The hospital stands. Your family remains safe. But ... double quotes, he smiled. Your chances of returning alive are perhaps 5%. 5%. 1 in 20. What mission? Hitler gestured. An SS officer entered carrying a black leather briefcase. He opened it on the table. Aerial photographs, maps. Coordinates. Eastern Stalingrad, Sector 7. The Soviets are transporting a high-ranking general, General Mikhail Volkov, by armored train through Ukraine. This man knows all our defense plans. If he reaches Moscow, our entire line collapses. Hitler gestured to the photos. 4 Yak-9 fighters escort the train. Anti-aircraft batteries every 500 meters. Low cloud cover. Impossible terrain. 7 pilots have tried. None returned. He stared at me. You have 24 hours to destroy that train. Alone. No support. No backup. If you succeed, I will forget this insubordination. Suicide mission? He was offering me an honorable way to die, but it was better than massacring children. What if I refuse all 3 options? Hitler's smile evaporated. Then you die here, now in this room, and I personally deliver your mother's ashes in a cardboard urn. It wasn't a bluff. His eyes were like a snake's, cold, empty, deadly. I had 10 seconds to decide: kill children. Be tortured to death, or fly a suicide mission. I thought of Meyer, his wager, 500,000 Reichsmarks bet that I would have the courage to defy Hitler. And I did. But now the price was my life. I accept the mission, I said. Hitler nodded. Intelligent, with one condition. The room froze. No one placed conditions on Hitler. One condition? He tilted his head. Are you negotiating with me, Hauptmann? I want proof that the hospital will not be bombed. I want Gring's word. And I want Oberst Friedrich Meyer to be cleared of all charges. Hitler's eyes narrowed. You know Meyer? Shit. I had just signed his death warrant. No, I lied quickly. But I heard he was arrested for questioning orders. If I'm doing this, if I'm flying this impossible mission, then men like him cannot be punished for having a conscience. Absolute silence. Hitler studied my face, looking for lies, looking for weakness. Then he laughed. A short, dry, humorless laugh. You have courage, Rall. Stupid courage, but courage. He waved his hand. Meyer is free. The hospital stands, and you fly tomorrow at dawn. He extended his hand. I shook it, sealing my fate. Adjacent room, 10:40 a.m. Becker pulled me into an empty corridor as soon as we left. Are you insane? He whispered furiously. You just signed your death warrant. It was that or kill children. So you chose to die as a martyr? Dying saves no one, Rall. I pushed him against the wall. And living as a monster does? Look at you, Becker. Look at what you've become. You were going to bomb that hospital without batting an eye. His eyes gleamed with anger, then with shame. Yes, he admitted, his voice broken. I was going to. Because I'm a coward. He pushed my hand away. And you are a dead fool. He left. And I stood alone in the corridor, trembling. 23 years, 223 victories. And tomorrow at dawn, I would fly straight into hell. But something burned in my chest. It wasn't fear. It was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Poltava Air Base, Eastern Ukraine. April 15th, 1944, 5:15 a.m. The cold cut like glass. 12 degrees below zero. Clinging fog covered the runway. My Messerschmitt Bf 109 G6 waited like a dormant predator. Camouflage paint, motionless propeller, machine guns loaded. I hadn't slept. I had spent the entire night studying the maps. The routes. The armored train's coordinates. Sector 7. Donets River Valley. 300 kilometers deep into Soviet territory. 4 Yak-9 escorts. Anti-aircraft batteries every half kilometer. 7 pilots dead. 5% chance. The chief mechanic, a portly fellow named Herman, was checking the systems one last time. He didn't look me in the eye. No one did. They knew. This was an execution mission disguised as heroism. All set, Herr Hauptmann, Herman murmured. Full fuel, full ammo, radio functional. He hesitated. Sir ... may I say something? Of course. My son was 6 years old. His voice broke. He died in Dresden, in the British bombings, burned alive. He cleared his throat. You refused to kill children yesterday. Everyone on base already knows. And I just wanted to say thank you. Herman embraced me quickly, tightly, desperately. Then he pulled away and disappeared into the fog, and I was alone. I climbed into the cockpit, the cold leather of the seat, the smell of oil and gunpowder, harness buckles, oxygen mask, hands on the controls. I took a deep breath. "Mother," I whispered into the void, "if I don't come back, know that I tried to be the son you raised." I started the engine. The Daimler-Benz DB605 roared, 1,400 horses of pure power. The propeller cut through the air, dispersing the fog. The control tower crackled over the radio. "White Wolf, you are cleared for takeoff. Happy hunting. Happy hunting." As if this were a hunt, this was an execution. I accelerated. The runway disappeared beneath me, the ground receded, and I was in the sky, that endless sky that had always been my home, my salvation, my tomb. Heading east, cruising speed. Altitude 3,000 meters. The sun was rising behind me, tinging the clouds a blood red. 6:32, Soviet territory. The landscape had changed. Scorched forests, ravaged villages, bomb craters like gaping wounds in the earth. My radio crackled. "White Wolf, this is Tower. Intel confirms the train is 40 kilometers from your position. 4 enemy airborne contacts detected. 4 Yak 9 south. Soviet pilots were ferocious, desperate, suicidal when the moment demanded it, and I was alone." I descended to 1,500 meters. The clouds swallowed me whole. Zero visibility. Instrument navigation. My heart thundered. Then I saw it, the train. A steel serpent carving through the valley. 12 cars. Armored locomotive. Black smoke rising like a toxic plume. And circling like vultures, 4 Yak 9 south. 1 against 4. Impossible. But I had no choice. I shoved the stick forward. Vertical dive. Gravity crushed me into the seat. The airspeed indicator climbed 500 kilometers per hour. 600, 700. The Yaks hadn't seen me, not yet. I aimed for the locomotive, finger on the trigger. 300 meters, 200, 100. Fire. The MG-151 machine guns roared to life. Tracers ripped through the air. Metal shrieked. Sparks flew from the train's armor plating, and then all hell broke loose. Boom. Anti-aircraft explosion. To the left. The Bf-109 lurched violently. Alarms shrieked. The Yaks had spotted me. They came in formation, fast, lethal. I pulled back on the stick. Steep climb. Gravity crushing me. My vision tunneling at the edges. 9 Gs. 10 Gs. Rat-a-ta-ta. Bullets tore through the air where I had been a second before. I rolled, inverted, dove again. A Yak flashed across my sights. A 2-second burst. It erupted in flames. First kill. But the other 3 were on me. Wolfpack formation. Coordinated. Intelligent. I banked right, left, inverted loop. Each maneuver bled speed. Altitude. Energy. Boom. Anti-aircraft again. Closer this time. Shrapnel tore through my left wing. A warning light flickered. Fuel leak. Shit. I dove again, skimming the train. 20 meters altitude. The trees were blurs, the ground a brown smear. 2 Yaks followed me down. Their mistake. I pulled vertical. They pulled too. But I knew my plane. Every rivet. Every limit. Inverted at the apex of the loop. They were exposed. Fire. The second Yak disintegrated. Second kill, but the third one hit my tail. The cockpit erupted in sparks and twisted metal. A searing pain tore through my back. Something warm trickled down my spine. Blood. I was bleeding. Heavily. "Eject!" my mind screamed. "Eject now!" But the train was right below. General Volkov. The defense plans. The entire front collapsing. And the hospital. The children, Meyer. His gamble. You possess something Hitler failed to destroy. Conscience. I wrenched the stick. I ignored the pain. I ignored the blood. I ignored the 2 remaining yaks on my tail and plunged directly toward the locomotive. Altitude, 200 meters. 150, 100. The train's anti-aircraft machine gun spewed fire. Bullets perforated my engine. Black smoke billowed into the cockpit. 50 meters. I aimed. 30 meters. Finger on the trigger. 10 meters. Fire. The final burst struck the locomotive's boiler, and the world exploded. A gigantic fireball engulfed the train. The shock wave hurled me skyward like a leaf in the wind. My plane spun out of control. Sky, ground, sky, ground. I pulled. I pulled with every ounce of strength I had left. The BF-109 leveled out 10 meters above the ground. Engine dead. Propeller seized. Cockpit filled with smoke. And the 2 final yaks bearing down on me. No ammunition. No engine. No chances. This was it. I was going to die. But then ... crack. One of the yaks exploded. From where? Crack. The second disintegrated. And over the radio, a familiar voice. White Wolf, this is Eagle 2. Apologies for the delay, Becker. He had come. That cowardly, wonderful, impossible idiot had come to save me. Becker? My voice came out hoarse, choked with blood. What did you ... how ... We'll explain later. Now land that crate before you bleed to death. I looked down. Open field. More or less level. No engine. No hydraulic control. Just gravity and hope. I glided. The ground came too fast. Impact. Metal tore. Wings fractured. Everything spun. And then ... darkness. Field Hospital, Poltava, April 16, 1944, 2:20 p.m. I awoke to the smell of ether and dried blood. My body was a mass of pain. 3 broken ribs, fractured spine, 2nd-degree burns on my left arm. Metal shrapnel still lodged in my back. The doctors administered morphine. It wasn't enough. Every breath was a stab, but I was alive, alive. Becker sat in a chair beside the cot, his uniform torn, his eyes bloodshot with fatigue. When he saw me awaken, he simply nodded. We remained silent for long minutes. Then he spoke, his voice low and weary. He recounted that he hadn't been able to sleep after Berghoff, that he'd kept thinking about the hospital, the children, how it would be to look in the mirror for the rest of his life, knowing what he had done. At 4 a.m, he had stolen a BF-109 from the Munich base. He had flown after me. He had arrived late, but he had arrived. Hitler would be furious. Becker would be arrested, perhaps executed. But he no longer cared. Something had broken in him at Berghoff, and something had been reborn in the Ukrainian sky. An officer entered. Thin, gray, Meyer. He looked 10 years older, but he was smiling. He sat on the edge of the stretcher. He took a crumpled envelope from his pocket. He opened it slowly. Inside, a Swiss bank receipt. A transfer of 500,000 Reichsmarks. The wager. He had won. Kessler had lost everything. The fortune stolen from Jewish families now in the hands of a ruined officer who had gambled on an act of conscience. Meyer folded the paper. He put it back in his pocket. Then he handed me another envelope, smaller, heavier. I opened it with trembling fingers. A letter, signed by Gring, confirming that the Red Cross Children's Hospital in Warsaw had been declared a protected zone. No bombardment, no attack. The children were safe. Tears burned my eyes. I tried to speak. I couldn't. Meyer squeezed my shoulder. He stood. He left without a word. 3 months later, August 1944, it took me 12 weeks to walk again. My spine never healed completely. Every flight after that day was accompanied by constant pain, like ground glass in my bones. But I flew. I flew because it was all I knew how to do. I flew because men like Becker and Meyer needed someone covering their six. I flew because, in that moment at Berghoff, something had changed in me. I was no longer the arrogant boy with 223 victories. I was the man who had looked the devil in the eye and said no, and had survived. Becker was not executed. Hitler was too preoccupied with losing the war, but Becker was never the same again. We flew together until the end, May 1945, when everything fell apart. I ended the war with 275 confirmed victories, the third highest scoring ace of all time, but that was not my greatest accomplishment. Warsaw, Poland, April 14, 1984. Exactly 40 years later, I was 63 years old, white-haired. My back permanently stooped from the old fracture, but I had returned. The Red Cross Children's Hospital was still standing, rebuilt after the war. White walls, clean windows, children laughing in the hallways, alive. The director awaited me at the entrance. A woman in her 70s, her face etched by time. She embraced me as if she had known me for decades. Perhaps she had. She led me to a bronze plaque on the hall wall main, inaugurated 3 days prior. The engraved words read, "This hospital was saved in April 1944 by a man who chose conscience over obedience." Günther Rall, a Luftwaffe pilot, refused direct bombing orders and risked everything to protect innocent lives. 437 children lived because of his courage. 437. I had never known the exact number. 437 children who grew up, had children, grandchildren, entire lives, because of one word, no. A woman approached, around 50 years old. A timid smile, teary-eyed. She said she had been in that hospital in April 1944. She was 6 years old, severe pneumonia. The doctors thought she wouldn't survive, but she survived. She became a teacher, married, had 3 children. And all because a German pilot had said no. She embraced me, cried on my shoulder. I cried too. Meyer used the 500,000 Reichsmarks to rebuild orphanages in post-war Germany. He died in 1972, surrounded by dozens of children he had helped save. Becker became a human rights lawyer. He spent 40 years defending victims of war crimes. He never flew again. I lived until 2009. 88 years old, a speaker at military academies, a combat ethics consultant. And every time a young pilot asked me what my greatest victory was, I didn't speak of the 275. I spoke of the day I defied Hitler, of the day I almost died, of the day 437 children lived. I was at 9,000 meters altitude when I realized I was going to die. But I discovered something in that blood-soaked sky over Ukraine. I discovered that there are things worse than dying. There is living as a monster. There is obeying without questioning. There is letting your conscience die before your body. A ruined officer bet $500,000 that I wouldn't have the courage to defy a dictator. He won, but the true victory wasn't the money. It was proving that, even in the heart of darkness, even under the weight of impossible orders, even knowing it would cost you everything, you can still choose. You can still say no. And sometimes, just sometimes, that single word is worth more than 1,000 victories. So tell me something. If you were in that moment, in that room, with Hitler inches from your face demanding obedience, would you have the courage to say no? Think about that. And if this story gave you chills, if it made you question what you would do in the, that wraps up our segment on Günther Rall. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell. Because next week, I'll be recounting the story of the soldier who saved 75 men without firing a single shot. And believe me, that particular tale is even more improbable. I'll catch you then.